Big time fight in one of the busiest divisions in women's MMA. We have Jinh Yu Frey taking on Gloria de Paula, who's making her UFC debut. Really exciting stuff coming out of Shoot the Box Diego Lima. And we've been talking about that gym more and more often. I mean, of course, you have Charles Oliveira up near the top of the ladder at lightweight. You also have women's flyweight in Maeda Bueno Silva, who bears a close connection to Gloria de Paula. The two of them are girlfriends, and I think that's awesome to have somebody like that in your corner. I mean, we talk about fighters that have a relationship like that. We have JP Bays and Cheyenne Bays on the same card coming up here, what is it, next week already? Yeah. You have, Amanda Nunes last weekend, and a really good fighter in Nina Ansaroff, who has a big fight coming up in her own respect. But for Gloria de Paula, to have a fighter like that, Maeda Bueno Silva, who has great stand-up, a really, really slick jiu-jitsu, to really complement Gloria de Paula, who's mainly a striker. She has great Muay Thai, a really good clinch game, really great knees up there, throws well in combination with some really cracking leg kicks. Taking on Jinh Yu Frey, who, if you look at Jinh Yu Frey, I mean, what can I say? She has really, really heavy strikes. She has a sneaky ground game where her takedown defense for Jinh Yu Frey might not be all that good, but her jiu-jitsu can be quite sneaky. So for me, it's a really tricky fight. And if you look at Jinh Yu Frey's total record, I mean, Matt, we talked about this in the past, but the losses and even some of the wins against great competition. I mean, for Jinh Yu Frey in the UFC, she's lost her last two. Loma Lookboonmee, Muay Thai artist, and Kay Hansen, huge up-and-comer. You look at the other losses, though. Ayaka Hamasaki, women's GOAT. Seo Hee Ham, women's GOAT. It's just unfortunate that for her, when she was in the UFC, A, took on a high-level competition, B, she's an atomweight, and Ayaka Hamasaki as well. So for Jinh Yu Frey, I look at this, atomweight champ 2 times over with Invicta. It hasn't worked out at the UFC at strawweight. I gotta say this right off the hop. This is a tough ask for Jinh Yu Frey, late in her career up at strawweight. So what do you think here?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Jinh Yu Frey is going to have a very hard time in this fight because of the size disadvantage that she's going to have. And for someone like Gloria de Paula, who has such great Muay Thai, she's going to give Frey a really big trouble on the feet. And if Paula gets you backed up against the cage, she does 2 things that I really like. She throws in combination, and she is good at cutting off the cage. She's not just someone who is going to follow her opponent around in circles, like we see a lot and that Joe Rogan will get on people for and never stop hounding them. But she is good at using her feet to cut off her opponent and not just trying to throw hands to try to do it. And it's something that normally you only see when you do get into ranked fighters, but it's just a nice little wrinkle that she has in her game already. And for Frey, here's the thing. She isn't fighting in her proper weight class. She's a small atomweight, if we're being honest, and the fact that she's being forced to fight up at 115 pounds is going to be a very tough ask. And when she is fighting people who are the size of a woman like Gloria de Paula, she's going to have a really tough time, especially in the wrestling and the grappling departments, because Frey is a good striker. I wouldn't say she's a phenomenal striker. She has good power. She will throw combinations, but the fact that she is such a small fighter for this weight class, well, yeah, you've got good power at 105 pounds, but then you think of fighters who have fought at 115. Rose Namajunas, it's pretty hard. Jessica Andrade, it's hard. Like Joanna, these are the types of fighters who we're talking about at 115. And it's just really tough envisioning Jinh Yu Frey moving her way up the rankings all that high at this weight class. You saw what Kay Hansen was able to do to her on the ground. And a lot of what that fight came down to was the fact that Kay Hansen, the much bigger fighter out of the two, and she was able to wear on Jinh Yu Frey when the fight did hit the mat. You could tell that the size of Kate Hansen was wearing on her, and by the time the 3rd round came around, she was able to lock in that really nice triangle choke. So for Frey, I just don't really know where I can put her ceiling in the UFC. I think she does have a great excuse. Listen, I'm not in my proper weight class. She could go back to Invicta, probably have some great wins at 105 pounds. But for her at this stage of her career, she is, 35, 36 years old. It's not that she's on the 18th hole of her career, but she's definitely on the back 9. And fighting someone like Gloria de Paula, who, not that she's the next big star by any means, but she's a good young prospect who is well-rounded, who does have that good Muay Thai. It's just a really hard ask for Jinh Yu Frey.
And I mean, you look at it. So you've got a fighter in Gloria de Paula making her UFC debut off of a great win on Dana White's Contender Series against a good fighter where, all right, de Paula coming into this one, you're 25. You're 5'5" to 5'3". You've got a longer reach than Jinh Yu Frey. Listen, if you just go stats off a page, but you watch the fights, and Gloria de Paula has that instinct where she's always pushing forward. Again, I talked about the knees in the clinch, but you look at her last fight against Pauline Macias, and in that fight, I mean, her opponent, Pauline, judo background, judo black belt, had trained with Ronda Rousey, was training at a Factory X, so you'd think maybe even some of the striking's coming together as well. Pauline did a great job early on. First takedown, I mean, listen, to her credit, Gloria kind of got out of it a little bit, but Pauline just throws her to the mat. And then Gloria works her way back. And for the last 2 minutes and 50 seconds of that fight, Gloria's just trying to cinch a little bit of a choke. She pulls into it. Kind of a boring chain of events for 2 minutes and 50 seconds out of a round, but enough to really A, seal it for her, but B, tell you that even if she gets taken down, she's going to keep working at it. Second round, defends the takedowns, works in some of her striking, invests in the body with her knees. By the third round, it's all Gloria, enough to really win Dana White over to earn that contract. And I look at some of the losses on her record. Isabella de Padua by decision a couple of years ago, and Ariane Carnelosi. Well, they're both in the UFC, so I mean, yes, it might not be the same level of competition as Jinh Yu Frey, because Jinh Yu Frey was fighting some of the best fighters in the world, and even though Frey was losing some of those fights, I still think that it matters that she does have that level of competition. But when I look at the odds, Matt, Frey opened a plus 111 over on Best Fight Odds. She's now a plus 137. For Gloria de Paula, open a minus 133, now at a minus 167. Really hard for me not to go with the Brazilian fighter in this one.
It's De Paula's fight to lose. It really is. And it's kind of unfortunate that the UFC is using Jinh Yu Frey's, I guess, former champion status against her in this fight. But she has been up against the Kay Hansons of the world, who they try to build a name off of Frey with. And it feels like they're very much doing the same thing with Gloria in this fight. I expect Gloria de Paula to win this one with little difficulty.
Matt, both of us going with Gloria de Paula. Hey, maybe Jinh Yu Frey catches her with a power shot on the way in. You never know. But we're going with the Brazilian in this fight. Really looking forward to this card, Matt. Our co-main event. Ryan Spann taking on Misha Serkinov, and in the main event, Hamzat Chimaev watching from a perch. You have Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.